In May 2008, shortly after Thomas's CGI announcement, animation company Nitrogen Studios provided 2 CGI animation tests. One was a full CGI test of the 11th season episode, Thomas and the Stinky Cheese, and the other was the hybrid 12th season, where live-action model characters gain their CGI faces. These animated test shots were provided for HiT Entertainment to see how the show would look with CGI effects, whether on their own or added to the live-action footage. This would be the first time the engines would have lip syncing in the history of the series.
My favourite days are when we work together. Then Neville arrived to collect some trucks. He was excited. The brass band has arrived at Brendam Docks. Hooray! I like the brass band. So do I, but I'm never asked to pull them. If you go to the washdown now, you'll soon be as shiny as a trumpet. Then, maybe the Fat Controller will ask you to collect them. Percy was excited. Thank you, Thomas. The 2 engines tooted their best friend's whistle, and Percy puffed happily away.
The 12th series marked the first season for many things. Sharon Miller, as the series head writer, the first series to be cut to 20 episodes as opposed to the usual 26, the first that contained CGI animation produced by Nitrogen Studios, and the first Thomas production to feature moving people since Thomas and the Magic Railroad. This was also the last season for many people involved with Thomas who worked for 25 years, including Terry and Nigel Permain, David Eves, and Stephen Asquith as the series director. Stephen eventually applied for a job as a letter sorter following his successful run with the series. Greg Tiernan, the unit director of the 12th season, recalls that the decision was made to make the full transition after overwhelmingly positive feedback from focus groups and broadcasters, despite the understandably cautious reaction from the show's older fans. The team at Nitrogen Studios was pleased to have been chosen as the new home for Thomas and his friends. Although the CGI test proved extremely successful, Greg and the Nitrogen team confessed that their original work here looked primitive compared to the final outcome of the show following the 12th season. The animators added tracking markers to live shots to combine computer-generated animation with live-action footage. This allowed the animation, once added, to stay locked to the movement of either the actor or camera panning instead of being shaky and jittery. This proved to be one of the biggest challenges in 2 ways. First was making sure the CGI would, in fact, stay locked to the live-action model. The second challenge was making sure the lighting used in the animation matched as closely as possible to the lighting used on the live-action set. With this transition, there were many small additions adding to the realism of the show: moving faces on the engines and vehicles, mobile human characters, animal movement, and of all the live-action models given CGI faces, the only fully animated character was Harold the Helicopter. Some new and exciting things were to come of the series. James Works It Out marked the 300th episode for the television show. While Stanley became a recurring character since making his debut in The Great Discovery, 3 new characters made their debuts to the series, and only appearance thus far: Hank, Colin, and Flora. The process of creating Hank the American Tender Engine came from John Lee drawing an actual scale working drawing of the engine, showing all elevations. David Eves assisted by providing a few changes until the pair was pleased with the concept. John then sketched out proposals for the look of Hank's face, which he initially conceived as a much older character with a mustache. The executives at HiT requested John to make him look slightly younger and jollier. Whilst there was only one model for other engines, Hank had two models. This allowed the modeling crew to have a backup engine on set, just in case there were technical problems, such as a broken circuit or if the original was damaged for any reason. In spite of a variety of factors concerning the models of Hank, veteran Thomas model maker Mike Wall took care of Hank's running gear assembly, and all filming went well. Lee was also responsible for designing the character faces for Colin and Flora. He recalled that Colin was originally supposed to have a longer nose, which he thought worked well for Colin as a crane, but Lee amended this by scaling it down, as the toy manufacturer suggested it could prove difficult to tool up. Flora, the yellow steam tram, was pleasantly designed, but lacked a prominent appearance in the series. Returnees to the series included Duck, Oliver, Toad, Jack, Alfie, and Stepney. These characters were brought out to mark the end of an era for live-action model animation. During the production, Toby was given two brass models to replace his original Perspex model after many years of not receiving any new models, unlike the rest of the Steam team using this type of model. The 12th season aired in the autumn of 2008, with, to the surprise of the viewers, Michael Angelis and Michael Brandon returning to their usual storytelling duties. Pierce Brosnan was already touted to record all 20 episodes for the series, but for unknown reasons, Angelis and Brandon had returned to reprise their roles. He would not be returning to the series following the Great Discovery.
Ooh, I'm sorry I'm late. I took a shortcut, but I got lost. Huh, I never get lost. I know the railway better than any other engine. Some very important passengers and a group of workmen are waiting at Great Waterton. The first engine to arrive will pick up the very important passengers. The second will collect the workmen. Gordon didn't want to pick up the workmen. He wanted to pick up the very important passengers. I've got to get coal and water. See you at Great Waterton, Gordon. And Stanley chuffed cheerily away.
Oh, I'm sorry I'm late. I took a shortcut, but I got lost. Huh, I never get lost. I know the railway better than any other engine. Some very important passengers and a group of workmen are waiting at Great Waterton. The first engine to arrive will pick up the very important passengers. The second will collect the workmen. Gordon didn't want to pick up the workmen. He wanted to pick up the very important passengers. I've got to get coal and water. See you at Great Waterton, Gordon. And Stanley chuffed cheerily away.
Whilst the Great Discovery was heavily acknowledged with the frequent appearances of Stanley in Great Waterton, the 12th series was first broadcast on Milkshake on September 1st, 2008 in the UK, just weeks before the Great Discovery was released on DVD on October 6th. In addition, the 12th series wasn't shown in Hungary, Norway, Romania, Poland, the Netherlands, and, of all countries, Japan. Rumors include that Japanese television bypassed the season with the fear that the hybrid mixture of CGI and live action may confuse child audiences. Even so, several 12th series episodes were shown exclusively at Thomasland 3D Theater in Fuji-Q, Highland Park. When aired on Nick Jr., PBS Kids, and Treehouse, each 30-minute broadcast featured a new segment called Thomas's Favorite Friends, and included past interactive segments and songs from previous airings in between the episodes. In the end, the 12th series of Thomas wasn't as economical as the executives had hoped. It was prohibitively expensive for it to continue past that one season as a model and CGI hybrid. The 12th season became fully available in the UK and Australia through the complete Series 12 DVD and digital download, and 4 episodic DVD releases by Lionsgate and HiT Entertainment in the US. The latter two DVDs feature the engine driver segments in between each episode with Mr. Arkwright, a Sudrian engine driver played by the Canadian-born actor Robert G. Slade. His warm portrayal as driver Arkwright became an instant hit with the fans, and he recalled that it was a wonderful experience and a great opportunity to become a part of Thomas's world. As of 2010, after two DVD segments with driver Arkwright, Slade was replaced with the late Ben Forster, who played a delightful performance of another Sudrian engine driver named Mr. Perkins. After the production of the 12th series ended and the character models were no longer to be used, there was only one way to keep the television legacy going, and that was preservation. On July 22, 2009, Drayton Manor theme park opened an exhibition display at Farmer McColl's barn inside Thomasland, showcasing original Thomas models and sets from the television series. Visitors can watch Thomas, Edward, Rosie, and all their friends in action on the exhibition display as they visit Thomasland. Drayton Manor's general manager, Colin Bryan, stated, "It is a great pleasure to have this unique exhibition at Drayton Manor. The detail of the display is outstanding, and I'm sure everyone who sees it will be impressed. Since opening last year, Thomasland has been a great success, and this will only add to the enjoyment of all the Thomas the Tank Engine fans that come to visit." In Vancouver, Canada, Nitrogen Studios also had several models originally used in the series. These were used by the studio as references when the show transitioned into CGI. Several years after Nitrogen's final Thomas production, Blue Mountain Mystery, most of the models were later moved to the Hara Model Railway Museum in Japan. Following the success of the first live theatrical tour, Thomas and Friends Live on Stage, in the US and other countries, a second show, Thomas and Friends A Circus Comes to Town, made its American debut, visiting more than 50 cities from January to August 2009. During that same year, the Take-Along range was handed over to Fisher-Price and rebranded as Take and Play. These toys used the same design set as the original 2001 toys and remained compatible with the existing Take-Along merchandise. In addition, the HiT Toy Company has been manufacturing and distributing several Thomas and Bob the Builder toys from the beginning of 2007. By 2009, however, the company ceased production as HiT Entertainment handed over the toy license deals to Mattel. Thomas transitioned completely to CGI in 2009 with the fully animated adventure Hero of the Rails. While Spencer and Thomas are having a race, Thomas speeds out of control and into the woods, where he discovers an old abandoned engine from a far-off place named Hero, also known as the Master of the Railway. Fearing that the fat controller would scrap his gentle giant friend, Thomas and his friends work together to help restore Hero to his former glory, whilst trying to avoid sneaky Spencer. Continuing the character development traits Thomas and Friends is known for, this story focused on helping others by using proper judgment, to never be afraid to speak up when you need help, and to not be intimidated by those who are trying to put you down. Greg Tiernan directed this special, followed by 4 further series and 3 additional specials. Greg is a fan of the Railway series, owning copies of both The Island of Sodor, Its People, History, and Railways, and Sodor, Reading Between the Lines. Hero of the Rails marked the first Thomas special to have its own stylized opening instead of using the television series opening. The opening sequence was rendered in a fitting, classy art style that was strikingly similar to that of the LNER posters. Hero of the Rails was also the first Thomas production since Thomas and the Magic Railroad to introduce a dedicated voiceover cast alongside the narrator for English territories, as well as having one continuous storyline without relying on songs or interstitials. Sam Barlow said that the story was initially being developed as a hybrid production using live action and CGI animation. Following the CGI transition, the production shifted after the script was underway. During the History of Thomas event at Swanwick in May 2019, there were prototype face casts for Victor, Hero, and Kevin, mainly made for toy manufacturers, on display. Before his departure from the series, David Eves came up with the concept of the Sodor Steamworks as one of his last contributions. Both the writers and animators accepted this idea. John Lee was responsible for designing the master of the railway himself, Hero. David Eves asked him to draw up some designs for a new character. Lee drew up the facial expressions, whilst David sketched up the engine's body. Lee also designed the faces for Victor, who was referred to as a Hispanic character before having a name. The models for all characters were recreated from scratch without any scanning or programming, just good old-fashioned craftsmanship. Using references from the original models and from hundreds of photographs of each engine, both the TV model and the engine on which the character was based, each model was hand-sculpted using the 3D animation program Maya, an industry-standard software that has been extensively used in many films and video games. Every detail of the original TV model series was carefully reproduced in the CGI model. Greg recalls that the modeling crew at Nitrogen Studios had many rounds of review between the modeler, the modeling supervisor, and himself before they submitted the model to HiT for final critiques and approval. Every facet of the original show had to be animated in order to recreate the beautiful island of Sodor, including every building, vehicle, prop, and character. In total, hundreds of thousands of individual assets were created for the series, and it was an arduous challenge for Nitrogen to do this for the new era of Thomas. As it was in the early 1980s, it was extremely important to create a believable setting for these stories and characters. As each season progressed, the Nitrogen crew worked hard to add more of both classic Thomas destinations and characters, as well as new ones, but recreating every familiar set and character into CGI would take some time. From this special onwards, many changes were made to the logos on a majority of rolling stock, including mail coaches and tankers. Here is a part of the production process of Hero of the Rails, from storyboards to the final version, animated by Nitrogen Studios.
Don't worry, Hero! You can do it!
Thomas, help me!
But the harder Hero huffed, the worse he wobbled.
Keep huffing, Hero!
More parts splattered and scattered from Hero's engine.
Tomas! You can do it, Hero!
I don't think he can.
The voice recording sessions took place at the Sound Company in Gosfield Street, London, from this point until 2015. Dave Peacock worked as the sole voice director for Hero of the Rails and the 13th season. Ahead of its initial US DVD release on September 8th, the subject of Thomas's CGI debut was covered by ABC's Good Morning America, along with an exclusive interview featuring the voice of Martin Sherman as everyone's favorite little blue engine.
Hello, John. Thank you for visiting us on the island of Sodor.
Hey, Thomas. Your fans are going to get to hear you speak in your own voice for the very first time. How do you feel about that?
Bubbling boilers. Every useful engine has their own story to tell. Now the stories will make your firebox fizz.
You and your friends are getting a complete makeover. How's that going to change your adventures?
You'll see Sodor like never before. Sodor has always been about really wonderful stories, and now our stories are better than ever.
Several weeks before its UK DVD release the following month, a blue carpet premiere was once again held at View Cinemas in Leicester Square on Saturday, September 26, 2009. Celebrities in attendance included Katie Price, Roger Black, Deborah Stevenson, Gary Lucy, and Reverend Awdry's daughters Veronica Chambers and Hilary Fortnum. Ben Small, former UK voice of Thomas, recalled that he was privileged to have met one of the Reverend Awdry's daughters at the blue carpet premiere. Though he did confess he was a little nervous, he really hoped she would approve of Thomas's new voice. Luckily, she liked the film, and after their introduction, he stated that she was a delight, extremely gracious and complimentary of his performance, which he took to be a seal of approval. Voicing the iconic Little Blue Engine was a massive responsibility, and being the first actor to establish a UK voice was a big deal for Ben, who stated in the Metro, "The responsibility is immense. He is so well loved." There were different end credit sequences shown in 2 English dubs. The UK version had a 30-second ending credits sequence, using still images from Hero of the Rails whilst the intro sequence music plays on. For the US credits, Go Go Thomas was performed by Sam Blewett. This was the first post-2003 Thomas song to be written by the series composer, Robert Hartshorn. Robert and Sam had worked together for more than a decade on various projects. Robert called Sam out of the blue one day and said that he might have an interesting project for him: Thomas the Tank Engine. It was initially a one-off special, so they could make the music a little more contemporary. Sam commented, "As a singer, you always have ideas as the songs are being recorded. Now and again, I will chip in with something." It had given both Sam and Robert a bit more freedom to try something new with the song itself, and sure enough, the producers and fans liked it. The new song formula was a success. In 2012, a second variation of Go Go Thomas aired during the initial broadcast of the 16th series on PBS Kids, with a few alterations to the lyrics. Much like Stanley, Hero became very popular with the fans, especially in Japan. Since the theatrical release of Hero of the Rails in April 2010, Hero was created to give the Japanese audiences a character they could call their own. Following the Japanese release, the scenery of Emily and Oliver and the Great Gotta Go-Go adventure ride, now called Thomas's Treasure Hunt, was replaced with Hero in his hiding spot. Hero was the first Thomas character to have the same voice actor in both English dubs, portrayed by Japanese actor Togo Igawa.
Where is your island?
My island is a long, long way away. There are mountains and snow and sea. There are lots of railways. I was the strongest engine at home. I was called Master of the Railway.
In addition to Hero, the hard-working and comical duo of the Sodor Steamworks, Victor and Kevin, were also introduced and became series regulars. Hero of the Rails became a runaway success after a bold move to CGI animation. The merchandising campaign released several books, toy products, digital apps, and video games for Nintendo Wii and DS in Europe and Oceania. On Monday, April 19, 2010, Hero of the Rails won the British Video Association Award, making it the second of the series to win this award following the Great Discovery. Brand manager of HiT Entertainment, Victoria Bushell, said, "I am thrilled with the win for Hero of the Rails, which became HiT Entertainment's highest-selling new DVD release last year. We were up against some really strong campaigns and delighted the judges awarded ours as the best." After Hero of the Rails, Thomas and Sir Topham Hatt made a special appearance in their traditional model form on November 20th, 2009 for the official BBC Children in Need medley single by Peter Kay's animated all-star band. Ringo Starr made a surprising return to voice the Little Blue Engine during this scene. The single has sold over 452,000 copies in the UK, earning it the gold status from the BPI, making it the biggest selling single of 2009, ranked at number 1 in the UK singles chart list, and number 6 in the Irish singles chart list. By mid-December 2009, it raised over £170,000 for children in need after more than 265,000 CD, DVD, and download sales. Following the first Thomas CGI special, several episodes from the 13th series were first shown through select theaters in the United States through 3 episodic programs: Splish Splash Splosh on November 9, 2009, Thomas and the Runaway Kite on January 9, 2010, and The Lion of Sodor on October 2nd of that year. All 20 episodes were produced in 2009 and aired in several countries throughout 2010, starting with the UK broadcast of Creaky Cranky on January 25th. The 13th series had a limited number of characters and locations, and extended the running time from 7 minutes to about 8 minutes and 45 seconds. This was the second rebranding of Thomas and Friends while under the ownership of HiT Entertainment following the 8th series. Sam Barlow stated that the team never considered the CGI format a reboot, but rather a continuation from Series 8 onwards. The show continued after the events from Hero of the Rails, including bringing Hero back to Sodor in later episodes. Alongside Hero, Victor, and Kevin, this season marks the first appearance of Charlie the Purple Tank Engine. In the episode Splish Splash Splosh, Charlie's role was originally written for Billy in the first draft of the script. The plot for Tickled Pink had similarities to Henry C's Red in the Railway series book, Henry and the Express, in which an engine gets an undercoat. This was also the first season in which Sir Topham Hatt's first name is revealed in the television series.
At last, Thomas, you've made Miss Botty very late.
Not at all, Bertram. Thomas has made me very happy. I've had the ride of my life. So many people to sing to, and such fun.
That made Thomas smile, and so did his fun friend Charlie.
After frequent cameo roles since the 3rd series, Farmer Trotter was finally given his first speaking role in Thomas and the Pigs. During the 13th series on Nick Jr. in the UK and PBS in the US, each broadcast aired 2 episodes, a song featuring all new CGI footage and Down at the Station segments, directed by Ben Hall and produced by Leighton Cheel, who also produced Mr. Arkwright segments. Down at the Station was a series of informative live-action segments featuring scenes of real railways hard at work, showcasing the journey of a passenger on a trip and explaining the different jobs the railway workers perform. All 20 segments can be found on various Thomas CGI episodic DVDs and on YouTube via the official Thomas channel. For music videos, some Ed Welsh songs from seasons 8 through 10 were re-released with CGI footage, including an edited version of Thomas, You're the Leader, and an all-new rock and roll song performed by Sam Blewett titled Roll Along. While the full CGI animation was pleasing and as true to the original model format as possible, the storyline structures weren't as strong as the previous series, or any before. But on its initial UK broadcast in January 2010, Thomas and Friends received very strong audience figures and put forward some fascinating new scenarios that could never have been achieved before. This also meant that further adventures could have more scope and become bigger than ever before, especially with the usage and developments of computer animation. HiT Entertainment's decision to transition the show into CGI was not only cost-effective, but ensured the spirit of Sodor could keep existing for many years to come. 2010 saw the 65th anniversary celebration of the Railway series. On Sunday, March 7th, the National Autistic Society celebrated the event to make the longest Thomas cake train at Hamley's store in Regent Street, London. The charity managed to raise £1,849.70, along with an extra 10% donation from Hanley's, who celebrated its 250th anniversary that year. On April 12th in the UK, a compilation DVD titled The Best of Thomas was released to commemorate the 65th anniversary with a variety of classic and new CGI animated episodes. 2 years later, it was re-released to coincide with the Best of Percy and James DVD releases. Almost 2 months later in the US and Canada, HiT and Lionsgate released a commemorative 2-disc DVD under the title The Greatest Stories on June 1st, 2010. Several British heritage railways, including the Battlefield Railway in Leicester, celebrated the Party with Thomas event via venues of Day Out with Thomas. The special event had become a highlight of the year. 2 months later, the Little Blue Engine had once again broken another Guinness World Record on the longest toy train track constructed by a team of railway modelers at the Workshops Rail Museum in Australia. It took a team of 20 people over 210 hours to build the whole Trackmaster train set, utilizing 10,197 pieces of track, and was 394 meters longer than the previous held record that took place in Odaiba, Japan on August 23, 2006. To cap off the special year, Drayton Manor's Thomasland held the ultimate 65th anniversary extravaganza on Saturday, December 4th throughout their annual magical Christmas event. 2,500 guests attended the celebration, including members of the Awdry family, like Hilary Fortnum and Veronica Chambers, VIPs, competition winners, and fellow Thomas voice actors Ben Small and Keith Wickham. Former Senior Vice President and Global Brand Management of HiT Entertainment, Rick Glankler, said, "It's amazing that 65 years since the Reverend Wilbert Awdry first told his young son Christopher a story about a cheeky little blue engine, Thomas continues to capture the hearts and imaginations." Colin Bryan, managing director of Drayton Manor, said, "It's an amazing honor for us to be the home of Thomasland and host the special 65th anniversary party. It's clear that Thomas and Friends has a magical quality that entertains the young and young at heart." The next Thomas special, Misty Island Rescue, was released in the autumn of 2010. After rescuing Diesel, whilst losing all the Joby logs in the process, the Fat Controller sends Thomas to fetch more logs from the mainland by ship. These logs are required to build a new Sodor search and rescue center. However, whilst on an old raft to his destination, Thomas drifts away and ends up on an island that he had never been before. On Misty Island, Thomas meets the engine trio, the logging locos, who agree to help him back to Sodor. During this time, the Fat Controller organizes a rescue party to find his missing number 1 engine. During that time, when Sam Barlow, Sharon Miller, and Greg Tiernan were at an Indian restaurant in London, the idea for an isolated island was conceived. This would allow the team to genuinely do something extraordinary with Thomas by expanding the horizon. They discussed all sorts of broad story ideas, but the one that stuck was a Robinson Crusoe type story, Thomas getting washed up on a desert island. It was unlike any previous adventure, which was why it appealed to the trio. Sam commented, "The idea was that Misty Island was a sort of Lord of the Flies version of Sodor. It was a forgotten, abandoned place. So the engines that lived there, we figured, had been in isolation and had therefore developed their own culture and their own way of speaking. The characters came out of that idea. When it comes to their real-life locomotive counterparts, the logging locos weren't conceived with the intention at the time, unlike that of Hero. However, Sam recalled that the animators at Nitrogen had done masses of research to make the trio look as authentic as possible. While Bash and Dash were partly modified from British Railways with screw-link couplings without buffers, Ferdinand was modified with added buffers and screw-link couplings.
That's right!
Salty, Whiff, Stanley, Harold, and Butch all made their comeback in this special. Places that made their debut included the Sodor Search and Rescue Center, Misty Island, and Whiff's Waste Dump. Before the post-credits scene, there was a country western song based on the special of the same name, performed by Stefan Ashton Frank.
Misty Island Rescue, here we go. Here we go! Misty Island Rescue, here we go. Here we go! With boilers all a-bubbling, the engines are a-coming. Misty Island Rescue, here we go. Here we go!
Misty Island Rescue was first shown at select theaters in the US, UK, New Zealand, and Australia, along with a blue carpet premiere event at the View Cinemas in Leicester Square, London, on Saturday, October 2nd, 2010, with Veronica Chambers and Hilary Fortnum attending, along with big-name celebrities David Miliband, Rupert Graves, EastEnders actor Jake Wood, Tina Hobley, and Javine Hilton. The special marked the first Thomas production to have a Blu-ray disc release in the US and Australia. Plans for the UK Blu-ray release in April 2011 were cancelled at the last minute. Misty Island Rescue was released on DVD around the time the 14th series aired on television in the UK, starting with Thomas's tall friend. It followed on from the special with the logging locos appearing as semi-regular stars, along with Captain the Lifeboat and Scruff the Scruncher, who made their first appearance in the series. The majority of the 14th series episodes were produced in 2009, possibly on the tail end of the previous season, with the rest being completed following production of Misty Island Rescue the following year. Even though there was very little change in terms of the series' production, the attention was shifted from the STEAM team to allow other characters, old and new, to shine in their own spotlight. Additionally, this season marked the return of Iron Arian Burt and Jem Cole. Misty Island Rescue was regarded as a mixed bag, mostly because of the potential story structure being bogged down with constant nonsensical rhyming, terrible execution, and gimmicks that kept ruining the story and characters. In spite of this, the DVD sales of Misty Island Rescue had increased in both the UK and Australia, and became the fastest-selling DVD for a week. Rick Glankler of HiT's Global Brand Management commented, "These fantastic figures are a testament to Thomas's incredible popularity. In our 65th anniversary year, Thomas's global appeal shows no sign of abating. Our feature-length DVDs are clearly delighting Thomas fans, and sales for the associated merchandise are also looking exceptionally good." The merchandising of the special included several tie-in books, toy products, digital apps, and a PC game. By the late 2000s, the Thomas & Friends brand was now fully transitioned into CGI. While the team continued their focus on the expansion of the characters and stories, the multitude of new challenges would soon await in the new decade. As for the engines, they had no idea what trouble they would be in when the next special arrived.
You'll be laughing on the other side of your boilers soon, silly steamers. Yes.